Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the regular city council meeting for July the 9th. And I'd like to ask everybody that can to stand as we start every meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. And at the conclusion of the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would remain standing for a moment of silence for us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As most everybody in this room, if you could bear with me for a second, as most everybody in this room remembers, last week we had a tragic incident at the Capitol Gazette. And one of our longtime friends and chronicler of this city was killed amongst one of 5 people killed. John McNamara was an incredible guy. We shared a lot of things in common. We had a lot of things in different that we were different about, but he was one of those people that could talk to you and you walked away from that conversation knowing he cared about what you had to say. There wasn't a partiality or prejudicial bone in his body, and every story that he wrote that I saw was a clear and accurate analysis of what was said. And I think he was as good a reporter as we've ever had. So if you could join me in a moment of silence for his passing. Thank you. All right, are there any additions or deletions? As I announced earlier today, we're going to delete item L on new business community housing initiative at the request of the applicant. That'll be rescheduled at a later date. There are no others. Do we have anybody signed up for citizen participation? All right, as I call your name, if you would come to the podium and identify yourself for the folks at home. First one is Jane Carl. Welcome in. And it should be followed by our friend Dustin Kazan. Welcome in.
Well, thank you. So, I've come several times and never had the nerve to stand up and say what I was thinking. I've been in Bowie since '65. I went to Bowie High School. And I still live here. But I'm not able really to help take care of my home anymore. It's becoming more and more of a burden by myself. And I'd like to ask the city council to consider a movement or a part of Bowie that could possibly at some point be made for a person who doesn't want to be in a condominium but still wants a home, but a small home. That I could still have a garden, a small yard, but it would be a small house, not like one of the houses in Bowie. I'm right over here in Northview on Nicholas Place. I desperately don't want to go in a place where I can't grow a garden, or I want to maintain a home atmosphere, but I can't really take care of my home. And I've noticed a lot of older people in my neighborhood have similar problems. The houses are deteriorating. They're not really able to continue to take care of them. So I'm just asking if there's a way I could work together with other folks, or if there's a committee already working on it, or if it's the senior housing is just going to would just continue to be like apartments. It's worked in other cities. I know it's probably got a lot of problems attached to it. Okay. But I just wanted to bring it up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Are those prepared remarks about it?
I'm sorry?
Are those prepared remarks about it?
No, I just,
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I just wanted to, I've been in Bowie a long time. I don't really want to leave. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. Question?
Is this something that Mr. Bugg should be involved in? Mr. Jesse Bugg should be involved in?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we'll look into doing just that.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, sir.
Hello, good evening, Mayor and Council. Thanks for having me up here. I just I gave you guys all a little bit of package. Don't expect to go through it now, but I did provide this. This is regarding Racetrack Road, and just what it is just an alternative design option that I came up with. This is my background is in roadway design, and I went to the meeting that the county had with the public a few weeks ago. And in their defense, they have not really seen this. I just sent it to them today, so they haven't even got a chance to digest this at all. So what I'm asking is tonight at their presentation, they're gonna present an option, and I'm just asking if the city could be open to an alternative option and maybe request that the county also look into that option more. The option is laid out in more details here in the package, but essentially what we're requesting, this is something we also discussed at our MAPS group, the multimodal connections and public spaces group. We also, so we'd like, as a group, we are interested in this option, and essentially just, it would require a little bit of trade-off with restricting a few left turns, but in lieu of that, we could have maintained bike facilities on the road and also improve pedestrian crossings by installing medians wherever the pedestrian crossings are that would not be signalized. So, and I do believe it may even benefit left turning vehicles, which is a huge problem on this corridor. So I just asking you guys to keep that in mind and ask the county if they could look at alternative options as well. So.
We will certainly do that, and we also have our county councilman over here, and we'll make sure that he has a copy of it before you leave.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, that's very thoughtful, pretty well thought out. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
All right, that's all I have to sign to speak up, so I'd like to move to a kind of a good news, bad news situation. Bad news is that we're losing a good friend. Dr. Anthony Nelson is leaving Bowie State University and moving on to bigger and better things. So we'd like to invite him up to the front of the podium. We've got some recognitions we'd like to give to you, and I will retire my joke before the evening is over. If you guys want to come down, and we have several of these. Dr. Nelson is very tired when he's saying this story about, when I first met him years ago. Call came in to the president of the university, and he said, we're going to have an event, and we'd like to have the president attend. And the thoughtful secretary said, well, I'm sorry, the president's not available. Well, how about the provost then? Let's have the provost. And the secretarial staff looked at him and said, I'm sorry, the provost is not available either. And he says, well, I'll take nothing lower than a dean. And the young woman said, that's fine, because there is nothing lower than a dean. I will retire that story today. All right. But we have some presentations for you. Before we do, I just want to say from a personal level, you've been an incredible guy to work with. You have an incredible program at the university. We've had this conversation about the business school at Bowie State University. And I think when we first met, I told you how I recognize the business students on the university. And he looked at me and says, how's that? And I said, they're the ones wearing a jacket and a tie. You have instilled in these young people a desire to succeed and to excel. And for that, they may not tell you today, but there's going to be a time in their short future where they're going to think back and say, all the things that you've done for them. You're a credit to that university, and on top of that, you're a darn good guy. Right, so we've got a couple of things. Dr. Trout is going to make a presentation for you from the city.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to try not to beat up the microphone like I did the last time. I got excited. And this is a very auspicious moment for me. Having a degree from Bowie State University and from the School of Business. So this is marvelous for me to have this privilege to present this proclamation to you. And I've been knowing you ever since you got to the university, so we're good friends. And this is a proclamation on behalf of the city of Bowie, and it's from the council.
Why don't you come around this way so the people at home can see your smiling face? Okay.
That's right. And this is a proclamation of the council of the city of Bowie, Maryland, commending Dr. Anthony C. Nelson for his exemplary work as the dean of the College of the School of Business at Bowie State University. Whereas, as the Dean of the College of Business of Bowie State University, Anthony C. Nelson, PhD, is to be commended for his untiring efforts to improve town-grown relationships, connect the business community the university, enhanced business incubator, and into entrepreneurship. And whereas Dr. Nelson's corporate expertise combined with his knowledge, skills, and ability as a seasoned higher education administrator made him a sought-after leader who is now moving to lead, oh my goodness, the North Carolina Central University School of Business.
You don't have anything against them, do you?
No, as a matter of fact, my good friend is the dean of the School of Law who taught my son in law school.
Oh, okay. All right. That's a
Okay.
connection.
Yeah, I'll give you his name and address. Whereas Dr. Nelson's personal enthusiasm and support of business opportunities for students, faculty, and community residents has strengthened the bridge between the university and the city. And whereas Dr. Nelson worked alongside city staff and through his forward thinking led the efforts to establish the city's business incubator on the university's campus within the College of the School of Business. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland acknowledges, applauds, and commends Anthony C. Nelson, PhD, extraordinaire, and thanks him for his many accomplishments and achievements in service to the Bowie community and extends our best wishes for the future. Approved and presented by the Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland at the regular July 9th, 2018 meeting, attested by our outstanding clerk, Wilder Hernandez, and also signed by the mayor of the greatest city and the greatest mayor in the entire universe, Mayor G. Fred Ross. Thank you, Dr.
And then I will give you an opportunity for rebuttal. We also put down for this tonight the vice chair of the Prince George's County Council. He used to work for them when he was here, and he has some comments for you as well. Councilmember.
Thank you, Mayor. Colleagues, good to see all of you, and as well to our esteemed Dean, Dean Dr. Anthony Nelson. I too have a proclamation, this time on behalf of the Prince George's County Council, recognizing your work, your hard work over many years of service, not only to Bowie State University, not only to the city of Bowie, but also to Prince George's County. And so, while I won't read all the whereases, because they're very similar to, very similar to what the city is, I do want to commend you for your work in not only encouraging our young people to think about business and entrepreneurship, but also to give them the opportunity to do that. And obviously the work that you have done, and I know we were joined by Lisa Smith, who's the executive director, as well as members of the board and staff at the Bowie Business Innovation Center. Bowie State University and you came along at a time where it was in its infancy. The city council, I happened to be on the council at that time, had this great idea. We were trying to move forward, and we had all these grandiose plans, but it came down to what kind of partnerships can we develop as part of this process. And so we went to Bowie State University, and through your leadership, we now have one of the most excellent business innovation centers and entrepreneurial aspects at Bowie State University. It's something that we are proud of, not only obviously in the city of Bowie, but in Prince George's County. And I know it's trying to be modeled in other parts of the state of Maryland and around the country. And so the fact that we were able to partner with you at Bowie State University to make it a success. And I think without your efforts and without Bowie State University, it would not be celebrating its 6th year in operation for Prince George's County and the city of Bowie. So with that, we want to say thank you for your service as the Dean of the Business School at Bowie State University. Obviously, we're bittersweet in that we're losing you, but obviously another institution has gained your attention, and I know you will do as well a job at your new responsibilities as you did here at Bowie State University, and we wish you well in that. And so I will present this on behalf of the Prince George's County Council, our proclamation recognizing your achievements as well.
You've heard this Bowie Business Innovation Center mentioned several times. They are affectionately known to us as the Bowie BIC. They are here tonight we have the chairman of the board, Mr. Mark Lawrence, and the executive director, Mrs. Lisa Smith, who would like to make comments and presentations.
I too have a proclamation. No, but all the words are gone, but I'll just say the 7 words.
That means you can't go.
Right. Just 7 words that I think you don't hear enough, but thank you for your passion and commitment to the Bowie BIC and all you've done. You've been our ombudsman, our relationship manager. You helped us navigate the university. So I just want to come up and say thank you. For all the things that were said, you were very connected in Prince George's community. You're very connected in the city of Bowie, but you just really cared, and it was told. You cared about the students, you cared about entrepreneurship, and you really cared about the Bowie BIC. So I just wanted to say thank you. So we have a visual proclamation for you. So we'd like to present you with this photo signed by all the clients and the board members of the Bowie BIC.
Oh my gosh, that's great. Excellent. Thank you.
Can you read what it says?
It says, with thanks to Dr. Dean C. Nelson, Dean of the College of Business, Bowie State University, from the Bowie Business Innovation Center, for his leadership which helped us launch and grow, June 2009 to June 2018.
Oh, thank you.
We're also pleased to have with us now the director of the Central Maryland Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Raj Kuchakar.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Dr. Nelson, 10 years on our chamber board. So that's commitment. 10 years on our board, and actually it's interesting because our chamber is fairly new. We formed through a merger of 2 chambers, and when our new board came together, we said, we're gonna keep people to 2 terms. But then Dr. Nelson was up for a 4th term, and he was actually willing to do a 4th term, so we changed our bylaws in order to allow him to do an extra 3 years. But you've been very committed to the chamber, been committed to Bowie, been committed to the region. Wanted to present you with the Certificate of Appreciation, so I'm going to read the certificate to you. Certificate of Appreciation presented to Dr. Anthony C. Nelson by the Central Maryland Chamber, an official recognition of your significant contributions in support of the regional business community. Your steadfast dedication as Dean of the College of Business at Bowie State University, coupled with your commitment to the Chamber, led to a strong business environment in which entrepreneurship thrived throughout the region. Your everlasting contributions to make this region one of the best places to live, work, and start a business are greatly appreciated.
Dr. Nelson, we're open for rebuttal.
Well, if I knew that the mayor felt this way about me, I wouldn't have left. I wouldn't have accepted the offer in North Carolina. But truly, to Mayor Robinson, to the County Council, represented by the Honorable Todd Turner, and the City of Bowie Council members, Jimmy Marcos and Isaac Trout, who were here when the Bowie BIC was first launched and conceived. And, you know, I know that this is a moment where the spotlight is sort of reflected on me, but I want to kind of deflect it for a moment and just recognize a few individuals. You know, the operating agreement and the memorandum of understanding that was chiseled out over breakfast at IHOP for about a year. I mean, we spent countless hours in IHOP hammering that thing out. And, you know, I don't think that he likes the recognition, but he generally stays in the background. So I would like to recognize the Economic Development Officer, Mr. John Henry King, for all the work that he has done. I think he and I gained about 5 pounds from eating pancakes at IHOP.
But you lost it. I'm still.
Yeah, that's because I stopped eating there right after the operating agreement. And you know, I know that under the leadership of President Bro and Lisa Smith and Crystal Clark at the Bowie BIC and the board members, Mark and Adam and the rest of you, and also the clients with their support, I know that the Bowie BIC is going to continue to thrive and to grow into bigger and better things. And I know that the chamber, Raj, is going to do great things. So one person does not stop a show. I realized that I was fortunate to be here at the right time in the right place to see the economic development efforts move forward within the county and within the city. And you know, I'm just looking for to do the same thing in North Carolina. So I'll be borrowing a lot of your ideas to take down to North Carolina and to duplicate them and replicate them there. So again, the mayor who keeps me very humble with his jokes, I really appreciate you. You're a great mayor in a great city. This is just a great county to live in. And you know, I'm sorry to be leaving, but I'm happy that I have a new frontier ahead of me. So you can expect to see me from time to time as I come back and look for ideas to take down to North Carolina. So thank you very much. I really appreciate what you've done. This is my lovely wife, Michelle.
Congratulations. Oh, I'm proud of you. All right, and a couple of big folks will get pictures of you. So we'll just get back out of the way. All right, why don't you all stay here? Stay here, and the big people are coming. The big people. All right.
Could we get a picture of you? 'Cause there are people who were not able to be here, but they all wrote. So they're words of encouragement.
While they're forming, this organization we're talking about, BIC, that the university, the city, and the county have joined forces in and mobilizing, has produced an incredible number of outstanding young entrepreneurs that have spun out in a business of their own. They have prospered, and now they're coming back and helping to mentor the people. So it's a right continuing cycle. So we've not only created hundreds of new companies, but hundreds and hundreds of jobs as well, because of people like this.
3, 2, 1. Perfect.
Congratulations. Well, only Dr. Nelson could turn this into a whole night's event. All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. Good luck to you down in North Carolina. If you need some, some language classes to learn how to speak North Carolinian. The city manager's been giving me lessons on talking Southern, He taught me the other day that the plural for y'all is all y'all. All right. Council announcements, I just have one, and that is, I want to thank city staff and Park and Planning Commission and the hubcaps, for all those people that got together last week and put together an incredible Independence Day fireworks extravaganza at the Bay Sox Park. A lot of people put a lot of hours into that. It was a nice event. The weather cooperated. As soon as the sun started going down, it got a little cooler. But on behalf of all of us, Mr. City Manager, if you could pass on our congratulations to staff and thank them for all that they did to make that a fine and memorable evening.
I shall, Mr. Mayor.
City Manager, have a report or comment?
Well, you know, we've got the major events, our Memorial Day event, the Bowie Fest, and the fireworks out of the way. The staff is pushing forward with the new budget and focusing on our objectives, and all systems a go, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Council, you have a consent agenda items.
Excuse me,
A
Mayor?
through-
You skipped,
Oh,
the
you're right.
committee
I'm sorry.
appointments.
I skipped the reappointments. All right, Council, each of you have lists, because I'll be going to several of you individually. It's time for reappointing some council members, so I'm going to go first to Dr. Trout for the Administrative Review Board.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move for the reappointment, 2-year terms for the Administrative Review Board for William D. Boyer, Nancy Franklin, Tori Johnson, Carl J. Robinson, and William Smith.
Second by Mr. Marcos. Any question on the motion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Dr. Trout.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move for the reappointment of the Advisory Planning Board, 2-year term, for Lisa Avery, James A. Galato, Terry Rogers Jr., Carl J. Schutler, Ronald G. Scoots.
Second by Mr. Marcos. Any question on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Ms. Glass?
I make a motion for the council, if they concur, to reappoint the following members of the Arts Committee for another 2-year term: Holly Carton, Gabrielle Davison, and Jeffrey Minier.
Second by Mr. Marcos. Any question on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Dr. Trout.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move for the appointment of Board of Personal Appeals. This is a 2-year term. Emerson DeWitt Roof and Stephen A. Brown.
Second by Mr. Marcos. Any question on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Ms. Glass?
I would like to make a motion, Mr. Mayor, to reappoint the following members of the Community Outreach Committee for another 2-year term: Dale L. Grant and Mary Ellen Winland.
Second by Mr. Marcos. Any question on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Dr. Trout.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move for the reappointment to the Community Recreation Committee. This is a 2-year term, and the appointee is Carrie Weaver Bridges.
Second by Mr. Wolfley. Any question on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Mr. Wolfley.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to appoint the following members to Diversity Committee for a 2-year term: Alveda Dixon, Jenny Gilbard, Tisha Hillman, and Lisa Sanford, please.
Second by Dr. Trout. Any question on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Mr. Marcos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move to the reappointment of the following members of the Economic Development Committee for another 2-year term. They are Yolanda Muckle, Joan B. Pitkin, Lisa R. Ransom, Phyllis C. Thompson.
Second by Dr. Trout. Any question on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Mr. Wolfley.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move for a reappointment of the following members to the Education Committee for another 2-year term: Tracy Bradley, David Grogan, Nicholas Peters Hume, and Nikita Thule.
Second by Dr. Trout. Any question on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Dr. Trout.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move for the appointment of the following members to the Environmental Advisory Committee, and this is for a 2-year term. And that would be Gary Allen, Corinne Trashengerberger. I guess that's close.
Right.
No. John R. Teasdale, Charles Mike Trawick.
Second by Mr. Wolfley. Any question on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to move for the reappointment of Messrs. William Olukoya and Rodney Gansey to the Financial Advisory Committee for a 2-year term.
Second by Dr. Trout. Any question on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Dr. Trout.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move for the following members to be appointed to the Green Team Executive Committee, and this is for a 2-year term. This is Michelle Baffy, Linda Cooper, Howard R. Dobson, Mason Gore Duran, Susan Rivera, John R. Teasdale.
Second by Mr. Marcos. Any question on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Mr. Stev.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to move for the reappointments of Mr. John Eatsness, Frank Figlazzi, Kenneth Wenzel, and Ms. Joanne Marshall-Hobbs for a 2-year term to the Information Technology Committee.
Second.
Second by Dr. Trout. Any question on the motion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. And Dr. Trout.
I'd like to move the reappointment to the following members of the Public Safety Committee, and this is for a 2-year term. Delma Billings, Ronald E. Gill Jr., William C. Grayson, Bill Healy, Jill Hockman, Monica B. James, Jacqueline M. Rome.
Second by Mr. Marcos. Any question on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you all very much, and thank you for the members who have been reappointed, and we'll look forward to another term. Now, Council, consent agendas items A through K. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Who moved? Mr. Wolfley, second by Mr. Marcos. Any question on the motion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Item next is Racetrack Road Improvement Project.
Good evening,
City
Mr. Mayor.
Manager, you
For the
wanna
record,
introduce
Frank
again?
Stevens from the City of Bowie Planning Department. We have tonight with us 2 staff members from the Prince George's County Department of Public Works and Transportation to review with you the Racetrack Road Improvement Project. Mr. Irv Beckert, who's the Chief of the Division of Highway and Bridge Design, and Mr. Noah Donahue, who's the Project Manager.
Welcome all.
All right. I can advance. That's fine. Just take it. All right. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Do I need to speak directly into
You
this
can,
mic?
yeah, that'll pick it up for the people who are watching on
Okay,
television.
very good. Good evening, everyone. My name is Irv Beckert. I'm Chief of our Highway and Bridge Design Division with Prince George's County Department of Public Works. I am very happy to talk about our pedestrian safety project today at Racetrack Road, running from Clearfield Drive to Marquette Lane. So this project has been in discussion for quite a few years. It actually originated as a sidewalk request from staff from the City of Bowie. It's been deliberated, discussed for at least 15 years. We're now finally moving into design on this project. It is in the planning phase. So what I'd like to do is just give you a very brief outline of the project, and then make ourselves available for answering questions. So, why are we doing this project in the first place? I mean, at its heart, this project is about pedestrian safety. The Racetrack Road, the area that we just described, has severely impaired pedestrian facilities. The roadway itself, it's an old open section roadway, which means there's an open shoulder on the edge, not a good width, not a good section of roadway. And as a consequence, we've had a number of rear-end accidents. traffic and access is not as safe as it could be. And at the very top of our project limits, we have, at the northern limit, we have Yorktown Elementary School, Grace Baptist Church, and the Church of the Redeemer. We have a very challenged series of access points there that make it very difficult for pedestrians to get across safely, and really for the users, for the folks that visit the church and use the school to efficiently get into and out of the churches and the school. So what we wish to do with this project is, first and foremost, improve pedestrian safety, improve how the vehicles move up and down this roadway, and access and utilize the intersections. We are committed to this project. The county has planned and programmed approximately $3.4 million in capital improvement project funds towards improving this roadway. I'll zoom in a bit. This is the, bear with me please. Let's try that one more time. All right, so this roadway, this project starts at Clearfield and Overbrook. And what we plan to do is construct hiker and biker paths on the northbound lane side. So this is your northbound lane, that green strip there, that thick green strip, that is a hiker biker path that can be anywhere from 8 to 10 feet wide. And that allows pedestrians and bikers to coexist safely. We're also going to provide continuous sidewalk on the southbound side. And this sidewalk system is going to be contiguous throughout the entire project. And in fact, we're very strongly considering making that a hiker-biker path as well to make sure that the bicycle community is well represented and we address bike needs along this project. We are going to be urbanizing the roadway, which means that we put in a curb section. We're going to be upgrading all the street lighting, as we do with all our major road projects. We provide LED street lighting because that provides absolutely the best and safest lighting. It's daylight level lighting along the roadway, and that, of course, protects and highlights any kind of pedestrian or biker in the roadway, makes it much safer for them as well. We're going to be installing a traffic signal at this access point. This is the school, and these are the two churches, Church of the Redeemer and Grace Baptist. Again, the mission statement of this project is pedestrian safety, and far and away the greatest pedestrian needs are right there at that school, and we can make a much safer access point by the imposition of a traffic signal and the reconfiguring of those access points. We're also, and we've worked extensively with the school, we're going to be reconstructing their entire school parking lot, upgrading it, enhancing it. And then on the southern limits of the project, we're addressing a historical need. We've had problems at Idlewild Drive and Marquette Lane at this intersection for years. This is one of those, as a civil engineer, I really hate the way this is configured because it's not safe. It's an offset intersection, and when you signalize an offset intersection, you really invite a whole host of problems because of the vehicles wanting to make turns that are contrary to another vehicle at the other intersection. And what we've done is we're looking at realigning, modifying, adding lanes here so that people can go through this intersection much more safely than they can today. So the section on the roadway, this is just a representational view, but I wanted to at least convey to you that right now it's an open section, which again means there's a shoulder on both sides. And we're going to be urbanizing it, putting the curb and gutter in, and we're going to be adding, where it's necessary, turning lanes. So what that does is it really corrals the vehicles. It allows them to move safely through the roadway. Because right now, you have an open section roadway. People can make some bad choices because when you have a roadway that's open section with a wide shoulder, sometimes if you get a little impatient, you may move into that shoulder and use that as your personal turning lane. Now, that's not the right thing. It often, and that's why we do have several rear-end accidents. We have some turning accidents because drivers make some poor choices when you have a section of roadway like that. So we're going to better define that roadway. And when you do that, you make it safer for everybody else. You make it safer for the pedestrians, the bikers, and that's really our goal. It's not just to look at one mode of transportation, it's to look at everybody, and the end result being a project that makes it safer for bikers, for pedestrians, and for of course, the vehicle users. And we did quite a bit of coordination with the school and the two churches, because this project really could not get off the ground if we didn't come to terms with how we were going to make this access point work safely. So we met extensively with both churches, with the school board officials. We met with their engineers. We worked and observed operations from the school. And we really did our homework to make sure that what we're doing here respects the goals, the desires of the school, of the churches, without impacting the vehicle users along Racetrack Road. Because quite often we engineers, we look at a project and we have one problem that we solve, and in some cases we create others. So what we were really trying to achieve here was arrive at a solution, and we feel that we're there with this access point that respects the access needs of these schools, of the school and the churches, but provides finally a safe pedestrian crossing and provides connectivity for any of the children, the families that are walking or biking along either side of this road. That was a really significant element to this project. The other side of it was that southern limit I talked about, and that was at Idlewild Drive and Marquette Lane. So we have looked at the roadway section that exists there today, and we've arrived at what we think is a better section that will move people through what is actually a very short segment of roadway, but it creates a bottleneck. And when you have that bottleneck, you have opportunities for those rear end, those rear end accidents and those backups that quite often develop here. So we're providing additional lanes to accommodate traffic right through that intersection, and then we're necking it back down to a reasonably sized section. Because that's the benefit of this project. We can look at it, we can study it, we can figure out where do we need to enhance and widen, but where can we really work with the pavement that is out there and keep people moving but not encourage excessive speeding. Because the idea is it's a balance. We want to keep people moving, but we at the same time must remember that we're trying to welcome pedestrians and bikers onto this roadway better than they are right now. Now, this project is substantial. It's going to involve significant stormwater management because we're putting in curb and gutter. That means we put in storm drain systems. We are going to be building a lot of additional sidewalk, hiker-biker pathways. We aren't really going to be widening the footprint of the roadway too much, except right at that problematic intersection around Idlewild. The width of the roadway right now will not change markedly because you already have a shoulder there. So just imagine that where you have the shoulder, there will now be a curb at the end, at the edge of each shoulder, and we're going to have enough width for, roughly speaking, one lane in either direction and a turning lane. And then we transition through the various access points to give us just enough space to move effectively and safely, but still give the pedestrians a fighting chance to get across the road safely. So all that means significant engineering. We have a planning phase design right now. Projects in our CFP, they go through 3 cycles. They go through the planning phase. This is where we are right now, where we study this. We look at the traffic engineering. We look at how much vehicles, how many users use this roadway. We project into the future, and we settle upon a roadway section. And that's where we are right now. We're settling upon that roadway section, and that's what we're presenting to you. Now we're ready to start our engineering level design. That's the second phase, and that's where we come up with construction plans. We lay it out, set the elevations perfectly, we get the right-of-way, and we are going to be acquiring right-of-way. We need to line up all the permits, and my goodness, we have a lot of permits that we'll need to get for this. And we need to do some substantial engineering, because those traffic signals are very complex. And we want to make sure that we design them properly, that they fit with the community, they fit with the needs of this project. And all that takes approximately 2 years to do that level of design to get our permits. At that point, we're ready to advertise the project, and we go through a procurement process whereby we bring in the best contractor, and we go through a best value solicitation method. That way we get somebody who's well qualified for this level of work. And then we award the project to them, and then they can start construction somewhere in the middle of 2021. And then the time frame, this project, construction always takes less than design, folks, okay? So we'll knock this thing out in about a year, maybe a year and a half at the most. But it's all about preparation, and we want to make sure we've laid this out properly, and that's why over the next 2 years, as we're engineering this, we make ourselves available to you. We're here to serve. You know, we work for you as the citizens, and I'm head of our Highway and Bridge Design Division. We will have another public information session as we move further along the design to show you where we are. We're certainly very willing to talk to you about ideas, thoughts about the project. But when I say the county's committed, I mean that really and truly. We have, because I plan and program our CIP funding over the next 6 years. And I know that we have committed ourselves to, and we thank the county council for their support. We thank our county executive for his endorsement of our projects. And when we have it in the budget, and it is, there's a commitment there. So we're committed to seeing this project through. We're now really through what I think is the biggest hurdle, and that was figuring out what do we do at that access point at the church and the schools. We figured that out, and now we've got a project that we can launch. So this year, we start our engineering, and it'll take us 2 years to design. My cell phone is there, my email is there. Mr. Noah Donahue is the project manager, and we're here at your disposal. Mr. Dwight Joseph takes over after this project gets advertised, once it goes to construction, and he becomes the point of contact. And we're happy to answer any general questions, and anything specific we can take back to our office and work with you deliberatively in giving you a good response.
Jack, did you have any comments? No, sir. Questions from Mr. Stev, you want to lead on?
Hey, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks again for coming out tonight. Appreciate it. We already had a chance to introduce ourselves earlier. The biggest thing for me is just making sure that there's plenty of resident feedback. We've had, I'd say, 2 categories of comments that I've heard so far from residents in the area and Bowie residents generally on this project. First category is there is growing interest in making sure that we're prioritizing bike and pedestrian safety and multimodalism. So that's a big thing, and we heard earlier tonight from a rep from one of our city committees on that issue, and I know that they're going to be looking at this, and we'll be very eager to talk to you about that. The second category is of feedback that I've gotten as residents who mostly just want to know that you know you'll be listening to them as this process goes on, and that you're potentially open to alternative ideas. And I get the sense that you are, and there'll be plenty of public hearings coming up. The only thing that I have is just making sure that we continue the good dialogue, and I'll be getting your information out there to my constituents as best as I can. And I saw on the timeline, it looks like you're hoping to have the planning more or less done by the end of 2018. I guess my question is there kind of a soft deadline for public input? Is there pretty much a period of time by which I should be telling folks, get your comments in by then?
Well, we encourage people to provide feedback now. Over the next 2-3 months is really a good time frame, because what we do next is we do hit the engineering ground running, because at that point we've set line and grade. We have a good sense of what our road section is. So this is a great time to hear from the citizens if there's something that we should be considering that perhaps we haven't, or to explain the rationale of our decision making. You know, it's you folks are all taxpayers, and you deserve to hear why a decision was made the way it was made. So this is an ideal time to do that. Now, it's not to say that come 2019, when we're in engineering, that things can change. It just becomes a bit more challenging, just because at that point in time, we've really got our limit of disturbance set. We have a good idea who we're knocking on the doors of for right-of-way. We have a good sense of what utilities are being impacted. Those are two things that are really significant critical paths for our project. So that's why it's so important right now to have this dialogue, to hear if we're missing something significant. And I did want to reflect back on your first point about the multimodal nature of the project. And absolutely, we try to be enlightened engineers here in what we do. And I couldn't agree more that considerations for those multimodes is so important. And really and truly, when I say we're going to look at a hyperbiker on both sides, I mean that, because I do feel that that's the best way of getting the bike community in the road safely, given the road section that we have. Because I do always have to consider limitations, and I'm very willing to talk at length about that issue, because it's just one of those things that if people have a good sense of what the challenges are that we deal with when we put together these designs, I think we all get a sense of empathy for each other. And I think we can end up with a design that makes sense. It's not perfect. We should never let the perfect be the enemy of the good in our projects. We should look and strive for something that works, that really meets those multimodal needs. So your point's well taken.
I appreciate that. If I put you in touch with a group of residents who specifically look at these issues, would you be willing to have someone sit down with them for 45 minutes one evening?
Absolutely. What we like to do is we like to bring in citizens with in work sessions, because we like to have our engineers there. You know, so I wouldn't call it a design charrette so much as a real hands-on view of what we do. And we've done this many times. We do them informally in our office. We can do it rather formally, but I like the informal setting, because it keeps, the project should always be nimble, but always respect those milestone deadlines. So we want to be responsive. We just ask that you reach out to us. The citizens reach out to us, and it's our job to pick up that phone and call you back, find the best way of getting, your feedback in the most efficient way possible that serves everybody. So we've done it before. We can do it again. This project, the next few months are probably that quintessential time where you get that information.
Great. I appreciate that. Thank you. I'll follow up on that.
Mr. Wilson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much for coming out. As a former resident of Yorktown, this is near and dear to my heart, because I was one of those griping for so many years about we really need to make an improvement here. So it's really good to see that some of these things will be coming to fruition in a not too distant future as far as these things are concerned. A couple of quick questions for you. encroachment on private property. I heard you mention right-of-way, but that right-of-way that's there right now is pretty wide. I mean, it dates back to when the racetrack was operating.
Right.
Do you really expect to take much property?
I don't expect to take much, no, sir. No, I would say that where we probably have the greatest need is in stormwater management, because that's where a road corridor does not serve you too well, because you need a little bit more space for a submerged gravel wetland or a bioretention, some kind of pond, small pond-like structure. That's where we're going to be almost certainly working, finding something that impacts either city property or private property. That's, I must be frank, is probably the biggest challenge of our project. The other impacts are very minimal strips, very minimal. We talked about hiker-biker. They fit, it's rather tight, so there is a chance we might need a grading easement, a temporary construction easement, something of that nature, but really nothing where we're taking broad swaths. No, nothing like that. It's very minimal.
Excellent, thank you. Having lived on that road, I also know that it's labeled Racetrack Road, and people take it to heart, and they try and live up to that, to the moniker. It is, well-traveled, a lot of through traffic, people heading north to 197, coming over, up from 450. What can you do, or what are you considering as part of your design process to manage speed? I know that typically when we do road upgrades, we end up upgrading the road, reducing the speed limit, but traffic just seems to kind of hustle on through nonetheless. Do you have have you put any thought into that, and could you make sure that that's an issue on the bullet list that gets addressed?
Oh, most certainly. Just to give you a quick synopsis of some of the things that we consider on all our road projects, especially in this new era where we're really putting pedestrian safety at the forefront. We look to road diets where we reduce lane widths. The fact that we are urbanizing the roadway is significant. That does help, because the moment that you put a curb section, you reduce lane widths, you corral the vehicles, you slow them down. We're also signalizing that intersection. We're installing a new signal at the access point at the school that provides that stopping point. It also provides, a lot of folks are concerned about traffic congestion, but traffic signals in this instance are going to create a gap. They are actually going to help move vehicles along, because one thing that causes speeding is driver frustration. When they see that backup, when they see that excessive long line, and the benefit of a traffic signal and timing it and controlling it is that we can create those gaps so people can get in and out of the subdivisions. Now, we are also looking at median treatments, something in the middle of the roadway. That we need to really look at very carefully. The other thing is we light up the roadway. We sign it, we mark it better. When you provide clear direction to drivers, they tend to respond. They tend to drive more carefully. We have a challenge with Racetrack Road. It's inherently a fast road because it's a straight shot. So we'll look at every mechanism for that type of roadway that we can put in there. Again, the project is well funded, and we've got a pretty clear scope, but we can always add elements to really pay attention to that excessive speeding.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Couple more things as well. I heard the hiker-biker. I heard you mention the two sides as a possibility.
Yes, sir.
Having had young kids during the time when we were living in that neighborhood, having it on both sides I think would be great to ensure that kids get to a proper crossing point where they need to. And anything that we can do to separate the traffic from those pedestrians and bicyclists. I mean, now it's a horribly ugly solution of fencing, some chain link fencing and some guardrails. So I know we'll do better than that. But anything we can do in that area would be fantastic.
Oh, absolutely.
And, and in the end, I'm sure it's going to look a lot better than what it does now. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Of course, of course.
Any other questions or guests? Councilman, man is going to fund this for us, and we're going to get it done next week.
First of all, I want to thank Mr. Becker and Mr. Donahue for coming out and for the work. Actually, I understand that this has been a multi-year process with consideration and consultation, both with the city of Bowie as well as the school and the churches in order to make that improvement. And I can say, as having sat on that side when we started talking about Racetrack Road and what kind of condition it is, the fact that we've moved this farther along into getting into the design and having that feedback, I think that's very important and something that we can look to. I know, I do recall this started at, the city got a grant for doing some pedestrian safety improvements, in discussions with the county at that time. Obviously, it's a county road, so the fact that we're at this point moving forward. I will say, obviously, as Mr. Beckert has said, the funding commitment is there for the design. We also need commitment for the construction, and that's what I will be working on during the upcoming budget to make sure that funding is still available as part of that process. Other than that, I look forward to the partnership. I appreciate the outreach that has been done. Obviously, there was a substantial meeting back in late May. I could not attend myself. I had staff there. I understand a lot of residents did come, and a lot of input was part of that. And so I know, having worked with Mr. Beckett before on other projects, I know he's committed to doing that as part of his design work. And so with that, I appreciate the opportunity to hear some of the feedback here, so I make sure that it is continuous, not only from the city, but also from the county representative as well as these projects are coming up. The last thing I will say is, obviously, I know the city has requested several projects for consideration that are county. I know we're working and put additional funding in for hopefully the work to be done on the Governor's Bridge as well. And I know there's discussions, though we didn't put it in the budget this year, did have the opportunity to speak with the Department of Public Works staff about the opportunities for Mitchellville Road. Obviously, since this project is farther along, that project we can't move as fast because we want to complete that one. So just so we know, I haven't forgotten as part of that. As you know, the county for the last couple of years has put additional funding in for road resurfacing. So Mitchellville Road was done, Racetrack Road was done, also the upper part. As part of my meeting with the county staff, we're coming up with those additional roads for this upcoming paving season and going into next year. So there's particular county roads within the city limits that you think we should take a look at. Please let me know, and so we'll make that a priority in our process. We understand the importance. Obviously, we know the state has come forward with the 5-year plan to assist both counties and municipalities for highway user fund use. So that's a good thing. So we're not going begging in hand every single year at the county level. Municipals have done a little bit better than us at the county level. But obviously, these funds are what we use in order to do these kind of projects. So with that, if you don't have any questions, I just appreciate the work that we'll have. We'll try to expedite as best we can. I know 4 years seems like a long time, but we'll do the best we can.
Well, on behalf of all of us, I want to thank you for your leadership in moving some of these projects forward. I don't know how long we have been discussing Racetrack Road. I guess when they started with the little wagons and horse-drawn carriages and stuff, but this is a major step. But I hope as this goes along, I mean, you heard some good comments tonight about not only the utilitarian value of the road, but hopefully that it'll be safe and it will look as good as a road could. And we would encourage you to be as creative as you can on the stormwater things. Make that as attractive as it possibly can. I know they're not attractive options sometimes, but maybe with a little creativity we can come up with some good ideas. And then I would hope that, as you heard tonight, if you could give a serious thought to the alternative that was presented from one of our environmental wizards here that is very attentive to road and transportation and multimodal transportation projects. So with that, thank you very much for coming out tonight, and we look forward to this moving forward.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank Dr.
Oh, you got a
Johnson.
question?
This is a question to Councilman Turner. First of all, I want to thank you for your remarks and thank you for your help with regard to not only this particular project, but also the Mitchellville Road project. And I just wanted to get a little bit of clarification. On the Mitchellville Road program, I know we were talking about resurfacing, but are we still including the sidewalks on the Mitchellville Road program?
So, for the purposes of resurfacing, no. So similar to this project, where it would be a major capital improvement program project, although road resurfacing is part of our CIP, it's something that can be done in-house through the County Department of Public Works and Transportation. My understanding, the County Department of Public Works and Transportation did an initial estimate on what the cost would be in order to, in essence, for the northern part of Mitchellville Road, the 4-lane section, 2 in each direction, with the sidewalks as part of that. So it's rather substantial as part of that. And so, as I indicated, you know, we only have so much money we can do, so this is the first project that we're working on. I've asked particularly the current Director of the County Public Works and Transportation to be prepared in the upcoming budget discussion about whether or not we need to place a project for Mitchellville Road to move forward in the same aspect that we are trying to move forward with Racetrack Road. So.
And also, I don't think we've asked or addressed the issue of trying to do a hiker-biker path on Mitchellville Road, but we may want to be looking at that in the near future.
I would think that's pretty much what we would call our complete street policy for Prince George's County.
Okay.
That when we are doing major work like we're doing at Racetrack Road, we do use all the multimodal as part of that if we're doing that type of improvement, unlike a repaving or something like that, which is.
Okay. Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you.
Mr. Seb has one last question.
Sorry, I just had one quick thing. I apologize. I just want to say a big thank you again, Mr. Turner, for supporting this project and in general for your office being super responsive. Jarrett, your office and yourself have been great on a ton of fronts, so I can't say enough nice things about that. Well, I do have you here real quick. I had a bunch of residents who asked specifically about the existing fence along Racetrack Road that goes roughly from Yorktown down towards like Cornerstone Church. The fence is just kind of in disrepair. I know we've talked to County Public Works before, and I'm not entirely sure where those conversations went, but I just want to follow up with you on that, and I'll ask our city manager to follow up again with County Public Works. So we had a few residents here tonight who also brought it to my attention, so well, we had everyone here. I just want to throw it out there that we are working on that.
I appreciate that, and I won't speak for Mr. Becker, but obviously looking at that, doing something temporary where we're doing this major project, I don't know if you've had that kind of conversation yet. But
yeah, we'll certainly address the fence, and oh my goodness, that will look much better at the end of the project. But it's a component that's part of the permanent improvements. We'll certainly address it in this project.
Gotcha.
There's no question.
Okay.
That guardrail, everything, it's going to look much better than it does today.
Gotcha, I appreciate that. I think in the short term, there was a possibility of trying to either repair it or replace it or just remove it in the short term, and I think that's what we'll be following up with County Public Works on. So
sure.
We'll see. But I appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you all. I'd like to move to I'd like to move us to an exec session to discuss a personnel matter.
Second. Moved and second. Any question on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? Before we leave, those of you that are interested, the President's nomination for the Supreme Court is Justice Kavanaugh, or Judge Kavanaugh. If you're from one of the,
yeah, the
District 3.
Exactly.
All right.
Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh from the district.
All right. Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.